I can't believe that
I know.
I have a boyfriend.
I know, and I have a girlfriend.
I know.
Last night was a mistake. Film shot or told to us in a backwards fashion, kind of like a Memento style, Christopher Nolan movie back in the day, or there was a Seinfeld episode shot backwards. Kind of told the story in that kind of cohesive fashion, kind of a cool little idea. Then they fast forward to the end, made us laugh, kind of made these characters care for us and connect to us.
Thank you very much for hosting the festival. Shorts are always interesting because sometimes the films, if they were longer, they would be boring, but they're the right length, so they are interesting. I'm curious about not just the comment on the first film, but I noticed that you've got a combination of...
Sorry, we just have to go through one film at a time. We're on the first film.
But you combined stories, fiction with a documentary, and you combined it from America, from Australia. It's from everywhere. I mean, I'm curious with the first film, where the people came from and how that script got developed, because the backwardness. Why the backwardness? Would it not have worked as equally well if it gone in real time? I mean, from beginning to the end.
That's a good question, but I think from a storytelling standpoint, I think that in terms of I don't want to be all nerdy and break it down, but it basically, there's from an emotional beat standpoint, it's kind of interesting the way they told it, because they basically had the end point, so we know what's going to happen. It's kind of like a little bit of a cliche, and then we kind of go, okay, so how did that happen? It's like a murder, seeing a murder. And at the end, the first scene, then we have to figure out how this happened. So it's kind of like a cool romantic idea, and it's sort of like we've seen this in the crime genre, but in the romantic genre, it's very kind of cool to see.
What I enjoyed, what you were just saying, was I like how you were able to see the ending of it, and it kind of gives you, you get to decide the build-up of what's going to happen, and then the fact that the movie just kind of, it lets you know how it's leading up to it, and I think that was the best part of it.
I thought that there was a whole lot of chemistry between the two leads, which was actually very subtle, and I really liked also the end, like that little pen click. It was sort of open-ended, but it sort of wasn't, and it really made you feel like, there wasn't exactly a happy ending or a sad ending. There was just life is moving on and people are making decisions. So it just felt very realistic and organic all the way through. So I did like that about it.
I don't know if the director's here or not. I have two questions about the film. When I'm watching it, me not being a lesbian or bisexual, it's interesting, the subject matter, because I feel like I'm being exposed to a world that I'm not that familiar with. But I'm wondering, was the device of placing it in Vegas used intentionally? Because we've seen The Hangover, we've seen crazy stuff happens in Vegas, and now we've got to undo it. But I'm wondering if that kind of goes against the idea of gay marriage or of a lesbian couple or a bisexual couple coming together. And then second of all, visually, at least to me, one lead's white and the other one's, I don't know, Indian or Middle Eastern. Was that also chosen by design to talk about race relations or people coming together in that sort of way?
So for me, the moment of surprise in that first film was when you discover that one of the leads was actually in love with the other for over 5 years. But I felt like that could have been the last shot in the film, as opposed to something that was just sort of mentioned in passing earlier on.
The terms of the comment before, I think it's a gender is obviously a huge discussion that's going to happen now and in the future, and it doesn't really matter. I guess that's sort of the point they're trying to make. It's two people who have a connection, and that's as simple as that.
I just wanted to make the creative high five to the idea of having the humor in it, and especially in relation to the backwards comment of the "Yay Vegas!" I like that there was a progression with that. In the age of the joke was getting older and older as the film progressed. But since it was going backwards, it was younger. So it was nice to see that it also started from Steven. So I just really appreciate the creative layer of humor. And I think that makes it seem like, great, you really develop that each character to have that resource, that layer of edge and humor. So thanks for that.
Yeah, the humor of the one character going after that stereotype in each scene, right? Like you're like a 21-year-old kid, blah blah blah. Go ahead, sir.
I love Vegas.
Same. We should do things like this more often.
You know, I'm not involved with creating the movie, but the person behind who asked why Vegas, you know, Vegas is where people get married overnight, right? So I think that's the reason. I don't know if you can do it anywhere else. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I think the movie succeeds or fails based on the rapport of the two main characters. You know, we have to sense immediately that they have tremendous history and are utterly comfortable with themselves. I think that's important. I don't know if other people think something else is crucial to making the movie succeed.